Yeah, there should be three more, because we should be doing two in, actually, it might be two more. Yeah, two more after this, because it's just the last two main ones, you're right.
Or do we want to stay with somebody that might be a stakeholder or something that doesn't necessarily, what's the benefit of going to one or the other?
They're more neutral than what could be perceived by our board, you know, on a building, but usually they'll all have to be attached, the benefits.
Hi, girl, how's her?
Hello, how are you? Anyway, and then they bring us those documents, and then we review them as a board, and then the board votes whether.
Hi, Fox, how are you?
Good. I just, depending on how much.
Do you guys do any training before members play at all? That makes it hard, unless they really remember and understand it, because it's so convoluted. And the way the pension system here set up, it's run by the state, which is a disaster.
Well, that's something we're doing, 12%, and just the PSRS,
Right.
because somebody wasn't watching their money and that investment. So we used to be like 4-5% dollars.
Yeah, but think about the other side of it, when the economy was like crashing, we have retirees who are still collecting 8% on their investment. And wonder why the PSR board money was going crashing, and the cities were paying 60, 70, 80, 90%.
That's why we're paying so much more now,
Yeah.
is to fund that loss.
Right.
So we're making up for the loss.
Oh, and who controls the investment? The state.
Something with ours, PSRS and PSRS, yeah.
And so that's kind of one of those things that we're going to trickle down. So now I didn't find the story making sure. So template ourselves.
Thank you.
Hey, is everything okay? What is that, Chicago Fire? The Chicago Fire soccer team.
Yeah, you got a Chicago flag on his face.
Oh, I didn't even know. You're right.
Well, you know.
Well, you know, Cook County and I go way back.
From Tucson, you guys down in Tucson, what do you mean?
Tucson and Baja, Arizona is like a real city. We're gonna secede from the rest of the state.
Thank God.
Baja,
I'll be the
Arizona.
first one to sign that petition.
Baja, Arizona.
Yeah, no, I know he was. The next one's Chad. He was in December. Oh, yeah. Well, he gave us road and all.
You ready, Lauren?
It's like that in the military. If you stay, and you only in the 18, 19, 20, most students, now you still have
Now, do I have a clicker for the?
We just use that.
Use the keyboard? Okay.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, no worries. There's a lot happening here. I don't know.
Is it Laurel?
Huh?
Is it Laurel?
No, it's fine. It's like, there's just a lot going on.
There's a date and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's not like putting in a full piece.
5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Trust me. I know we have 2 people coming late, so that's 10.
No worries, I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah. And just want to make sure. There's anybody else. Sean, Baker, unless it's here. Daryl. Pam.
Yeah, no worries. It'll be 5 in April. Yeah.
That's right. Because I just got 5 myself.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And remember, you started not long time.
Yep.
That sounds about right.
Time flies.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, we got a small town, what are you doing, chasing them away?
I got some wrong stuff. I did something wrong. Like I said, I know.
I can go down today, so don't get me.
It's not you. Yeah, but we're missing John, or we're missing Pam, or we're missing Daryl.
Am and Doug are both missing.
What's that?
Am and Doug are missing.
Yeah. And then Matt is running online, and Sienna, who sits up front, are both over at auxiliary training.
Yes,
That's-
yes.
So they're coming over, but it's gonna be late. Alright.
And is it just as usual, it's the down arrow key to toggle to
Yes.
the next one? Okay,
Yeah, thing finger down.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so left and right or up and down either way.
Oh, perfect. All right.
And like I said, I'm talking to the mic and
Okay.
I'll introduce you here in a second. And hi there. How are you? Please, please. And I'm trying to think of anything else. Look, so I explained to you how we're doing. How are you? You're ready to go.
I'm yeah, I figured I would just, get here and see what else is going on.
Is there anything on here?
Yeah, the presentation letter.
Wonderful.
I know.
So Lori's going from break.
You're not even on till 7:30. You're not even on till 7:30. 7:30.
Chief, this is our judge. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna say,
Well, you're right after me, but for some reason they had given me an hour. No, I'll be 15 minutes and you're on. Don't worry.
If you get an hour.
There you go.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
I'm just going to do this so I have it ready.
See, the bad thing now, I've never met them before, so I can't insult them.
Is that it? Wonderful. And we'll take a break in between, so we'll get a chance to talk to everybody. Okay. Good evening. I think we're ready now. Session 6, I do believe, of Citizens Leadership Institute for 2021. We have a sort of law and order night, but if you know anything about the structure of the city, you know that one of our most popular areas of the city, and there's no way around this, it is literally one of the most popular places in the city, falls under the police department. So we're going to start tonight with talking about paws and claws, or animal control. That too. And then Chief Kelly over there is going to behave for once, and talk to you a little bit about the police department, of course. And then we will finish up the night with talking about the municipal court. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So first, I think everybody, Yvonne might be the only one who has not been with us in person. Everybody else, I think, knows everybody. But Yvonne, it's pronounced Cruiser? Yes. Okay. Is one of our students that has been online. So we're very glad that she could be with us here in person. For your edification and everybody else's, the restrooms are right out this door right here. If you need to do that, like I said, we'll try to take a little break in between sessions. Okay, so the woman who is going to start our night off has a wealth of experience in a number of different areas before she came here almost 5 years ago, and as I said, runs one of the most amazing places. And I've been in government a long time. I've seen a lot of these shelters. What they do right here down the street on Baseline in Idaho is pretty amazing. It really, really is. So she's going to tell you all about how we handle animal control within the city of Apache Junction. So the supervisor of Paws and Claws, Lori Herlinson, right there. Lori.
Hi there. So my name's Lori. I am the shelter supervisor at Paws and Claws, and I have been there 5 years. It'll be 5 years in April. Prior to that, my background is actually in veterinary medicine, so I worked for probably about 18 years as a veterinary nurse and then also as a practice manager in vet hospitals before coming on to the shelter. And it is a great place, and we have a great crew there and really enjoy working there and working with the animals. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of what we do, and feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go. So we're located down on Baseline Road. We're between Idaho and Tomahawk on Baseline, right next to the Public Works Department. So we're right between Public Works and the city dump for points of reference. We're there at the shelter. We're open to the public Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 3, and during that time we're open for all services. People can come down for adoptions during that time, animal reclaims if their animal has been impounded, stray and owner surrenders, licensing. Even through this past year, with all the restrictions, we've managed to pretty much stay open and not have to go on a by appointment, and people have enjoyed that they can still come down. So we've stayed open for all services during our business hours. So finding out more information about the shelter, a couple places is we're, of course, on the city website there, the ApacheJunctionAZ.gov. On that site, there's a link to Paws and Claws. And on there, you can find information about dog and cat adoptions, adoption fees, impound and reclaim fees, information on getting your license and kennel permits. All animals are required, or dogs, excuse me, are required to be licensed in the city. And if you have 4 or more dogs, you are required to have a kennel permit. So that's what that means there with the licensing and permit. There's also a link to the city code on there. If you should choose to go and read a little bit more in depth about the laws and the statutes regarding owning animals in the city. Another place to see what's going on at the shelter is to follow us on Facebook. So we are Apache Junction Animal Control on Facebook. We're heavily on social media. We post several times during the day. There's also a little message button on the home page, and we actually monitor that all the time. Myself and Jenny Flood, who's the senior kennel tech, we monitor those messages almost 24/7. It was what it feels like, but it's a great tool that people can ask us questions even after hours and get information, send us pictures of their missing animals. Hey, do you have this dog? That sort of a thing. So that's how to find us and find more information. We have 5 full-time kennel techs down at the shelter. We are open to the public Tuesday through Saturday, but we are there 7 days a week. Obviously, the animals don't go home on our weekend, so We have staff there 7 days a week for animal care, feeding, cleaning, lots of cleaning. And the city employs 2 animal control officers with the city of, or Apache Junction Police Department. So we've got Officer Casey Sheehan and Brian Lawson. They work out in the field responding to citizen calls for dog at large. They may respond to aggressive animal calls, bite situations. They also work with cruelty cases, or people may call in with concerns about how an animal's living, and they respond to those cases. And they also work to educate people on the laws and the statutes regarding owning animals in the city. They will also respond to calls about snakes in your yard. Officer Sheehan especially enjoys going and getting those rattlesnakes and then relocating them out to the desert. So like I said, what we do at the shelter, our job is to care for the animals. So we support animal control by caring for all those animals that come in. They come in either as owner surrenders, strays, or being picked up by animal control officers. We can comfortably house about 40 dogs there in our wing of the kennels there. And we generally don't have trouble with space, so we don't ever have to double up, because our area of jurisdiction is just city limits of Apache Junction, so we're lucky in that sense that we're relatively small. And so again, we can comfortably house those 40 animals there. We also, of course, hold animals that have maybe bit and are on a bite quarantine, animals that are on hold pending cruelty cases or other investigations, or even if the owner of the animal is picked up for some reason, they were picked up on a warrant, there's animals in the house, then we'll do a hold on those animals for them there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's like fostering if someone is going to jail. I've had defendants in court who, they don't mind going to jail, but they're very concerned about leaving your animals while they're in jail. So, clause and clause would foster, keep the animal for...
It's basically a custodial hold is what they would call it. So if someone were taken and there were animals in the home, the officer might be called to come and take those animals. They would let the owner of the animals know, here's where your animals are being held, and give them the contact information to then pick those animals up when they can.
Okay, is there a maximum period of time for that?
It's really dependent on the case. Every case is different. It's really not always a set time. They can also designate somebody in their stead. So an owner could designate, say, a family member or a friend, give us that information, and then that person could legally come down, present their ID, and get those animals for them. Yep. No fee for that.
If they're in there for 30 days and you're watching the animal, there's a fee to
Well, if we are just holding them because the animals weren't at large or nothing was happening with the animals, the owner was picked up for whatever reason, and we're doing a custodial hold, we don't generally have fees for that. I wish we did. Great, let's talk about that. I have some other ideas too. Yeah. So we also, in addition to dogs and cats, we do get some other critters in there periodically. If any of you follow like the discussion and chat pages, Apache Junction 411, any of those, you probably notice these desert tortoises out all the time. They're escape artists, and probably once a week somebody's missing one. And then we go pick it up, the officers do, and bring it in, and hopefully the owners come forward pretty quick because they do want to dig out of there. You might also recognize, if you follow those pages, the goat in the picture there. He was just in a few weeks back, and he was a big boy. He did some damage to our dog kennels out there. We had to get some emergency funding to get those kennels repaired. We had him out of there within 24 hours, though, because there was no he was on a tear. He wanted out. He was a big guy, but we try not to hold these animals too long. If they come in, we get them posted up right away. Hey, are you missing your pig? If we don't get somebody down there in a day or two, we have people in the community that have little hobby farms or the ability to hold them better than we can in a dog kennel. And we get them out of there as quickly as possible because it's hard on them to be in there. So this is our outside play yard area. This is an area for the dogs. We've got a lot of volunteers that come down and get the dogs out during the day. We can use it for meet and greets. If someone comes down and they're interested in adopting a dog, we always encourage, sometimes require, depending on personalities of the animal, a meet and greet with their dogs in the home. So this is an area we can take the dogs out and meet. It's an area that we can just get them out for some socializing, and we do play groups. If we have dogs that have passed behavior exams and they're good with other dogs, we'll take them out and let them have social and play time. And it's good for them. You know, it's good for their brain being in the kennels for a long period of time. They need that to get outside.
Hey, Lori, we have a question from online. The question is, dog bites, if you can prove shots, do you still hold them?
So if it's an owner victim and the dog bit in the home and they have a vaccine record, in most cases, you can do a home quarantine. If the dog was running at large and bit, for the most part, unfortunately, it is a quarantine in either a vet's office or the shelter. Yeah. And I say for the most part because, of course, there's always a tiny exception to the rule, but in most cases, yes. We also, in the shelter, we haven't forgotten the cat people. We have a great free roaming cat room. This room is actually relatively new. It was built with funds from a fundraiser that was done several years ago by one of our volunteers. Her community does a big gala every year, and whoever's on the board gets to designate a recipient of the funds. This particular event raised $60,000 for the shelter. And one of the things that we built, because she is one of our wonderful cat volunteers, is we built a free roam cat room in honor of one of her cats. So it's called Tucker's Haven there. And this is a great room because people can come in now, interact with these cats. The kids love it during kitten season. They can come in and play with all the kittens. And it's really good for adoptions too, because people want to come in and interact with the cats and choose their cat that way. So it's a great safe place for the cats to play. And of course, in order to go into the playroom, that's after we've gotten them spayed and neutered, and they're social with other cats. So not every cat makes it in there. So a question that we get actually a lot at the shelter is what to do about these feral cats and these colonies in the neighborhoods. Cats are free roam animals in the city. What that means is our officers don't go out and pick up cats that are roaming around in the city. So the options that you have, the problem comes in typically where people start feeding the cats. In general, a true feral cat is not going to want to be around people. They're going to pretty much avoid you. But when you start feeding them and they become comfortable and then they tell their friends and then they have a litter of kittens, it can quickly get out of hand. So the options that you have is you can trap cats on your property. We do rent, what you see in the picture here, these humane live traps. We do rent those to city residents. They can come in, rent a trap, set it on their property, trap the cat, and then you can bring the whole cat in the carrier into the shelter that way. Other options are, there are some trap, neuter, release programs. Places like Altered Tales will do those. Sometimes Pinal County has gotten a grant to do them. And what they will do then is come out and trap the cats in your area, get them spayed and neutered, and then release them back into the community. So the cats are getting to live their life as they're used to, living in their community, but they're not reproducing, and so it's helping to take the edge off the problem. So stray animals, when strays come into the shelter, the first thing we do, of course, is we scan them for microchip, look for an identification. Strays may come in either from the animal control officer or citizens. If they find a stray, they can bring it in right through the front door to us. The biggest boon for us with getting these animals home has been social media. Over the past few years, it has grown so much with posting these strays out on social media, and everybody who's looking for their dog now is posting out as well on the discussion and chat pages, the lost and found pages, and you can see, I don't know if you can tell in the picture here, once we share a post, these stray posts are shared out hundreds of times then onto these other local sites. And we've found that if somebody's looking for their dog within a day, we've matched them up because they're looking, they're posting, we're posting, people are sharing, and everybody knows somebody on social media now. So it's really been a great benefit for us to get these dogs matched up. So stray animals that come into the shelter, If they have identification on them, such as a microchip or a collar with some kind of contact information, they're placed on a 5 business day stray hold to allow owners to come forward to reclaim them. If there is no identification on them, it's a 3 business day stray hold. And then after that time, if it's appropriate for the animal, we'll place them up for adoption. So every animal that leaves the building, of course, gets adopted because we don't want anything going out intact and breeding. All our adoptions include the spay or neuter. We get them up to date on their vaccines. They get a rabies vaccine. If they're in the city, we'll also issue you a city license. And then for dogs, also a microchip. You can microchip a cat as well. It's not included routinely in the adoptions, but some people do choose to do that.
The question of the license,
Mm-hmm.
does that cover like the county license as well, or separate?
No, so it's just city.
Lori,
So if you,
make sure you repeat the
I'm sorry. So
question.
the question is, does the license cover the county licensing as well? And it does not. If you live in city limits of Apache Junction, then you only need a license with the city of Apache Junction. So you would only need to license with us here at AJ Animal Control. If you're on a county island or outside the city limits, then you would only license with Pinal County Animal Control or Maricopa County Animal Control, depending on where you live. The good news is, on a side note, is that Pinal County has gone strictly to online now, even if it's your first time registering. In the past, for the first time, you would have to actually go into a building to do it. It was difficult for a lot of people driving down to Casa Grande, but now you can do it all online. So that's made it a lot easier for people. But yes, you don't need both. So if you're in city limits, you only have to license here in the city. Mm-hmm. So if you've ever been down to the shelter, you may have seen in our front lobby there we have a little food pantry going. We have such great community support, especially around the holidays, but year-round. We have people donating food, cat litter, treats, toys, not only private citizens coming in, but also Walmart, Shoppers Supply, always donating food to us. So we have such a surplus that we're able to feed our animals as well as then share with the community. So we have a little food pantry in our lobby. And if people are struggling that month and you know, need a little help getting dog or cat food, they can come on in and we can help them out with dog and cat food. For people with dogs, we ask in return that they keep their dog licensed, vaccinated and licensed, up to date on that. But if they do that once a year, then they can come in every month and we'll provide them with dog and cat food at no cost to them. Another service we offer to the community, there's a mobile vet. Dr. Newfield comes with MASH Vet. She comes to the shelter every Tuesday, and she does our animals, all the spay and neuters for us, but she also does a low-cost vaccine and a low-cost spay and neuter clinic for the public. And she's very busy. We're one of her busiest locations, but she's there every Tuesday, and if you ever drive by on a Tuesday morning, you'll see a long line of cars waiting to get in to see her. So her vaccines are no appointment necessary. She does them at walk-in, and they're very reasonable. There's no exam fee. She charges around $20. So it's a great service for people who just need a low-cost routine care. So a big part of our shelter, you know, we're a small group there, 5 full-time staff members, but a big part of our shelter is our volunteers. We do have a great volunteer program. Our volunteers are down there in the mornings with us, scooping those litter boxes and cleaning up after the dogs. They help with feeding and walking the dogs out to the outside kennels. We also have volunteers who will come in. You know, we've got one gal, you see her pictured here, Barb. She's a retired groomer. She'll come down if we call and we have a really matted dog. She'll come down and clip them up. We have volunteers that enjoy helping with front office duties, answering phones, helping with licensing, things of that nature. But we rely heavily on our volunteers, and we've got them there 7 days a week, so they're great. You might see us out in the community. Well, this past year was a bit of a dud for events, but prior to that, we really enjoy getting out into the community for events. Volunteers and staff alike really enjoy this, taking the animals out. We do adoption events at places like Shoppers Supply and Fry's here in Apache Junction, hosts us for adoption events. We like to do things at the Flatiron Park has events going on around the holidays. The light parade was always fun to do. So volunteers, of course, really enjoy that as well. It's a chance for us to get out there in the community and bring some well-behaved dogs and cats out to these events to get them adopted. And then one other time that you might see us out and about, we have a program called the Dogs Day Out program. And this is really to help with these animals that have been in the shelter for a while. They really just need that change of pace. They need to get out of that kennel for a day. So an approved volunteer or staff member can take out an animal that has been assessed and is okay to go out for the day, and they'll take them on a little day trip. They love to go up to Shoppers Supply because they can pick out a toy and take it up to the register. It's always cute. The employees there enjoy that. You might see them down at Silly Mountain Park there. They like to take the dogs for a walk, and then we always end their trip at Starbucks for a puppuccino. But it's really fun for the dogs, and the volunteers love to do it too. And it's a great way to get these dogs that have just, you know, their day is spent in the kennel, to get them out, and they get to meet people and socialize. So it's really a nice way to get these dogs out. And again, it's networking. It's getting their faces out there and available for adoption. So that's about all I have. That's kind of a summary of what we do down at the shelter. Invite you guys to drop by anytime and or contact us and ask questions. Anybody have any questions?
Are you a no-kill shelter?
That's a great question, and that's one we probably get asked daily. So the short answer is no, we're not. But it's important to understand why. What we are is we're animal control. We're a municipal open intake shelter. Where you might hear a rescue group say that they are a no-kill, it's because that when someone brings an animal in, they can screen that animal and determine its adoptability. And if it's aggressive, if it's maybe has some injuries beyond what they can handle, they can turn that animal away. We're an open intake shelter. That means if you live in the city limits of Apache Junction and you bring an animal to me, I have to take it. And everything that comes in my door can't safely be placed in a home. We don't put out euthanasia lists. You might see that with some of the counties. We don't give animals a time frame and say, well, this is your day. We work really hard on behavior evaluations and then making the right decision for that animal. You know, we'll work with them sometimes for weeks. Sometimes it's a week before we can get a leash on a dog. But we'll put in the time, but there are times when an animal just doesn't come around and can't safely be placed. So that's the reason why we're truly not a no-kill, but we like to call ourselves a low-kill because we don't euthanize for space. We euthanize when it's in the best interest of public safety and welfare for the animal.
Questions? Dog lovers in this group? Cat lovers? Something? Snake lovers? No, something here. There you go. See, there you go. That's very good. Someone does. All right. Any other questions? Chop.
2 questions. One, what are the adoption fees for animals?
So for dogs, it's $90. That includes their spay or neuter, all the vaccines, as I mentioned, the city license, and a microchip. Now, if that dog came to us and for some reason had already been spayed or neutered, the adoption fee is $40 and includes everything else. Cats are $70 or $30, and same thing. If we do the spay and neuter, it's $70. If they came to us already fixed, it's $30.
What's the license fee?
So if the dog is altered, the license is $10 a year. If it's intact still, it's $18 a year.
What do you mean altered or intact?
Spayed or neutered.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
One other thing that just came to mind, I do a lot of following of the social media pages. Are there a lot of abandoned animals out here? It seems like there's always a post, like every other day, with so-and-so's dogs running around or whatever.
You know, there's always a lot of speculation that happens out here, simply because we are kind of at the edge of town. We do tend to get quite a few of the older, ill dogs that are picked up kind of in a desert area and not reclaimed. So yes, we hear that a lot as well, that, oh gosh, that animal was dumped. Unfortunately, I can't prove any of that one way or the other, but yeah, certainly that discussion comes up a lot.
Okay, other questions? You sure? We'll send you to the dogs. I'm sure everybody here would love to volunteer, right? All right. Miss Lori, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Oh, one more.
Not a question, just a comment. I mean, you do take food donations too, right? You didn't mention that.
Yes, absolutely. You're talking about food for us or the animals? We do both.
Any parameters on the food donations?
No, actually, we take everything, we feed the animals a variety. We get so much donated that what we do is we actually mix the food. We have large containers. We mix the food so that they're not really getting just one brand at a time. Then they're used to eating whatever, or they don't have that stomach upset too when they go into a new home. So we give them a variety.
All right, Ms. Laurie, thank you. Not even close. Not even close. Since you don't have anything, I'll just leave that up. Well, that's probably true. Okay, we're going to continue on, roll on here on Law and Order Night with our law enforcement folks. And if you don't know who this gentleman is up here by now, got to pay attention. He's everywhere. He has been in law enforcement for, really, almost that many years. Almost 50. How about that? He started when he was 6. I'm not going to say a word because, he started out as a police officer in the Windy City of Chicago, spent about a decade there before he went to the U.S. Department of Justice in the Drug Enforcement Administration and spent more than 20 years there, moving right up to Grand Poobah, agent in charge in Chicago, and did that before he came to us in 2006 and became chief in 2012. Does that sound about right? There you go. Yeah, you know how it goes. And he's overseen, of course, the department as it has evolved over the last several years with a number of amazing programs that I'm sure he'll talk about, and a force that is very, very well not just liked but supported in this town for all that they do. And so I will introduce to you now the police chief, the chief of police of the city of Apache Junction, Mr. Tom Kelly, right there.
Thanks, Al. So I usually do mine, but I ask you questions before I allow you to ask me any questions. So real quickly, I'd like to know my audience. So if I'm going to start in the back, because you look like the quietest person in the back, just tell me your name and where you're originally from, or if you're in Apache Junction or Gold Canyon, where you're actually out of. And I'll kill some of my time.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Barlett. I actually live here in Apache Junction. I've lived in Texas, New York, and Nevada, and I actually used to work for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice as a correctional officer.
Thank you. This way I get Al to work as well.
My name's Pat Thompson. I live in Apache Junction out on the west side. I'm originally from Philadelphia.
Oh, welcome.
That's a lot nicer than Chicago, right?
Sometimes.
Well, Jeff Mitchell.
Yeah, it's close. It's close.
Jeff Mitchell, you already know where I'm from. So, I'm not doing this for you in any way, but, it's just where I'm from. And live in Apache Junction.
Welcome.
I am Caitlin Knox. I live in Apache Junction, and I'm originally from Mesa, so I'm an Arizona native.
Wow, that's a rarity.
If you're really nice, she'll teach you the secret handshake.
As long as it doesn't do with Tucson, we're okay.
My name's Yvonne Cruiser. I grew up in Wisconsin. I was actually born in Belvedere.
Oh, okay.
We have lived in AJ since 1988.
Oh, okay.
I'm Jeff Danford. I've lived in Apache Junction 11 years. I grew up in Sierra Vista, Arizona.
Okay.
That's in southern Arizona, just so you know.
Move on, Al.
Baja, Arizona.
Move on, Al. I like this man. It's just you.
My name is Sarah Schneider. I'm an Arizona native as well. I'm for the Mesa Apache Junction border, and I live in Apache Junction.
Oh.
My name is Terrell Moore. I live in Apache Junction, and I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska.
Get away. I don't know why you moved down here. It's like,
Did you want to introduce yourself, Judge?
Right. My name is Michelle Lusang. I live in Mesa, and right now I'm serving as associate judge in Apache Junction City Court.
welcome. Well, it's nice to know that we have a lot of Apache. I know Apache Junction folks, but I know the CLI has opened up to some folks in Gold Canyon as well because they'd like to get involved. So it's kind of nice for me to know at least who's out there and what we're doing. I'm going to start with some good news for me today, and I think for the community. So most of you are aware that one of my officers got shot a week ago, actually a week and a day ago. He was released from the hospital today. He left the hospital on his own 2 feet, no wheelchair, unassisted, walking out to his mom and dad, and we had a little send-off to him to get him back home, and he's able to talk. That was one of the concerns that the doctors had, that because when the bullet entered, they thought it may have done some damage to the vocal cords, and so far he's talking well. He recovered amazingly well for a person that got shot in the throat, neck area. But the department responded to that in an amazing way, getting him to the hospital, and the doctors are amazed. The emergency room personnel came out to bid him goodbye. Now this guy's 6'7", 280 pounds. The emergency nurse is about this tall. And she says, "Boy, you look a lot bigger than you did when you were laying down." So anyway, he's doing very well, and he's in good spirits, and we wish him the best. I'm just going to give you a real quick overview. I mean, the Apache Junction Police Department is pert near like any other police department. I hate using the word full service because I don't know too many agencies that are not full service. The services may be minimized because of what they have in regards to resources and personnel. Obviously, we're not as big as Mesa or Gilbert or Chandler, but we have approximately 70 officers from top to bottom, which is a little bigger than it was a few years ago. We cover 3 divisions, so the department's broken into 3 basic divisions. There's a patrol division, which is the largest division in the department, administrative and support, and then I call the criminal investigation division, or CID. Each one of those divisions have what I call collateral duties falling underneath them. Each division is handled by a commander, and the commander in patrol has a lieutenant that works underneath him and handles some of the collateral duties. So just to cover some of the myriad of duties that they do have. So in patrol alone, they have 6 squads that they use for coverage throughout the city. So they work a 4-10 program, and they have an overlap day on a Wednesday, which we try to use as a common training day for A side and B side. And A side will be on one Wednesday, and then B side will get the opposite day. I'm not going to get into the details in regards to how many folks are on the road at one time, just because. But we have a significant amount of folks on there. The thing that I've actually noticed in Apache Junction, even going through some of my neighboring peer chiefs and that, is that, and not because I'm the police chief here, but it seems to me I can't remember a time when I've been on the street driving either to or from another place that I don't at least see at least 1 or 2 patrol cars. I can't say that in a lot of other communities they are. Part of the reason is we really embrace the community interaction. So a lot of things that Al talked about with the support and stuff that I believe we get from our community is because we do try to interact with our community. We do try to give them the type of services that I grew up in Chicago, where you actually not necessarily walk a beat, but you interacted with your business people, you interacted with the people on the street, whether you're on the south side or the west side. You did that, and that was part of your tour duty. So we tried to do that, and we tried to interact with the kids. We have a good working relationship with the school, so tried to do a lot of these things. Each year, up until COVID, the city would do what we call community partnerships, and we would go out to each community and either be myself, maybe the fire chief, usually the school district, but generally the elected officials. And we would go out to the community and find out what are the things that we're doing good, maybe what are the things we're not doing so good. So at least I got a heads up of what's happening in my community. So those are some of the things I think why we get a little more support from the community than some of the other ones do. But under patrol, they also have, he's also responding for the SWAT division, and that's a collateral duty. So we have officers that respond just like Mesa or Phoenix PD do. We have specialized vehicles, people that have been specialized trained, hostage negotiation. We have all the, the same responsibilities that we have when we have a barricaded situation. On an average, we probably do 2 a month where we have a high-risk search warrant that they're going to do, or we do have a barricaded person in a house with a gun, or generally it's something where we have a person that's either been run from the police and now gone inside someplace, barricade them in, or a domestic violence situation where a spouse or a significant other has been threatened with a weapon, and now the individual won't come out. And as long as the individuals in the house are out there, we handle it with negotiations versus going in. We try to minimize or de-escalate those types of risks as much as we can. Everybody in the department has been trained in crisis intervention training, so we try to invoke those. Usually, because of mental health issues, we can't, or not usually, sometimes with the mental health issues, we try to get a specialist to come out. Depending, usually we can't find them after 5 o'clock at night, or on weekends, or on holidays. So it's nice that we have those things available, but they're also sketchy. They also respond for the bike unit, which goes along with my community interaction. It's a collateral duty. I have 6 officers that volunteered to be assigned to the bike unit, and on that common day, a Wednesday or a weekend, or a holiday when we have extra personnel on duty, they'll basically get on bikes in a team of 2, and they'll go out in the community, interact with the community, and ask them basically the same thing I told you. What's going on in your neighborhood? What can we do to help you? Blah, blah, blah. A couple occasions, a couple folks in some of the mobile home parks have decided they had a couch or 2 that need to be moved. The officers would go out and caught them one day taking a couch out of somebody's house. I went like, really? Are we 7 brother movers now, 2 or what? So, but they were helping some older person do it, so it was one of those positive things that they were doing. So nobody claimed about a back injury, so the city manager was happy about that. We have a program called the Homeless Outreach Team that deals with homelessness and situations like that. While you might hear a lot of things where we get involved in situations where you have homeless folks out there and that we don't give them a service, the first thing we do is we try to interact with them and see if they need mental help, medical help, or a substance abuse problem. We afford them opportunities to go for some centers. Most people they encounter don't want to volunteer to go any place to get medical or mental help situations. You may have seen Our Lady here in Idaho. If you've driven up and down Idaho, she's been here for about a year. She's been in a 1.5 block area, and she just stays there with her shopping cart and bags 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We have bent over backwards to try to help her. We brought her into court. Court to, not our court here, court tried to see if she was mentally capable of stand trial. Court decided that she was not, but she's not a harm to herself, although I would argue with the court on that when it's 115 degrees out and you're standing in the sun for hours, that you're not a threat to yourself. But either way, we have done everything we possibly can do legally with that woman, and she doesn't want help. She argues that when people give her money, she'll argue with them and throw it at them. So we don't, she stands there and she basically wants to get cigarettes. She goes for food across the street in the Genesis Center, the food area over there. And she'll get, different people will give water and drinks and stuff to her, like QT or Circle K. They're really good about taking care of that. We've afforded, most of when the team's out, they have on their cart, they'll have water, juice, and stuff that people might need. And we try to, especially in the summertime, try to help these folks out. But that team is out there trying to find out who's out there and is there a threat out there, and if they're in an area that they're not supposed to be. A lot of the property that we encounter is on private property, and there's been signs posted on it, and people have asked us to put them on trespass orders. But we try to warn them, tell them first, a couple, 2, 3 times, and then maybe a citation, which you'll get, or have gotten, and try to work with them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The city does not have a homeless shelter for a variety of different reasons, but we try to get them to different facilities that are available in the city and encourage them to go to it. Along with those programs, they also have the Explorer program, and then court services. We have a program out there that works with the court, and the court's been really helpful on these, where we have people that can't afford to maybe pay their penalty in the court that are able to go and do some sort of city-wide type program. Up until COVID, and blaming COVID up for a lot, we had some folks that would come over and wash police cars and sweep up in the parking lot area and just do some odds and ends things that they could earn dollars towards what their fine would be, and then they'd serve their time in whatever the court, I forget the dollar amount is, but they would kind of pay off their fine by doing services in the community. So we try to work on those different avenues with the folks.
Chief, I do have a question from the online folks. The question is, what is your thought on Phoenix Police working with psychiatrists and having psychiatrists going out with officers?
I don't have any issue with it. It's another source that's available when we talk about mental health specialists that are trained in it, and that's their specialty. I know that they've done it across the country in some areas. I'd like to see how it washes out in the long term, but I think it's a good avenue. I know Mesa has a program in regards to domestic violence where they have a domestic violence team. I'm happy to say that we don't raise to the level where we have that many calls that we have a team only to handle DV calls. But I think it's a good idea. I'm just not sure when that threat comes out and somebody comes up and there's a negative situation, if we're putting somebody that's not prepared to deter a threat, that person is even put in jeopardy for a reason less than political. You know, and we're not psychiatrists, we're not social workers. We don't have the extensive training on it. I think it's a nice idea for some of the lower key things, but I'd have to talk to Jerry and see how it's working out. I'm sure that didn't answer their question, but okay. So moving along on the support service division, that is also headed up by a commander. He has an administrative assistant, handles all the financial stuff for the department, so any purchases, any needs we have for budgetary items, they would be working on that on the planning side. The DARE program and the school resource officers report under that section. You have victim services. The communication or 911 center reports to the support service division. And Lori was just talked about animal control. That also falls under that commander. Property and evidence room. So just to give you an idea, so if you picture a room about half this size, so if you drew a line right down here, up to the doorway across, my property and evidence room is about this big and about that high, and it's got numerous shelves on it. That property and evidence room is completely packed from ceiling to floor of evidence and stuff that's yet to go to court or been disposed of. Over the years, we've expanded to the point where we don't have enough room in there, so we had to go off-site to have things that are pending disposition from the court, non-drug things and things of value that are not put out there, but things that we could put out there that are ready to be disposed of. So we had to go off-site to do that. And so space-wise, we're pretty much at our capacity, but that falls under them. Twice a year, that area, which probably has between 25 to, I'll say 27,000 pieces of property in it, is completely from top to bottom gone through and inventoried to make sure the pieces of evidence are in there. And they've been running about 99, and he goes 99 and 9/10 through, which means they found all the items that are in there. It just took them a little longer because we give them a certain amount of time to find the item, and we'll pull it out. And if they don't find it with a certain period of time, then they're down. But they might find it, it might be on the wrong shelf, it was put in the wrong shelf. But that has 3 people that just handle that, mostly volunteers. They have to be cleared and screened just like an officer does because of some of the integrity stuff. That room also contains any of our narcotics that are seized, any monies that are seized, and firearms. So they're all controlled in there. Crime analyst currently reports, actually have moved her today from the admin side over the criminal investigation divide, but they all division, and the records department also falls under this one commander. So that's his responsibility. Criminal investigation division, again, it currently has an empty commander spot. We're in the process of looking for filling that void. It has 2 sergeants. One sergeant handles my street crimes unit, which I always tell people, or when I do the neighborhood thing, that sometimes in the middle of the night, when you see somebody driving through your neighborhood, it might not be some guy that's actually looking to do something weird to your house. It might be my people, but we put them in the neighborhood when we have either like a rash of burglaries that are going on, or we have something going on. They do narcotics, do any of the street crime stuff in regards to prostitution and whatever else that happens to fall on their assignment that day. The crime analyst looks at some of the crime patterns that we're dealing with, and some of their tasks will be assigned through the crime analyst dependent upon the volume they have on it. Under that, then they have 10 detectives, a sex offender registration section, pawn detail, cold case. Al, I don't know if we saw it, but today, or last night, we did a live presentation with Court TV. It was kind of one of those weird things that they just sort of called up on Monday and said, we'd like to have you do a case on a 1992 case that we've been working, trying to identify an unidentified female. And we went on the show last night and talked about our case, which is still open, but it's got some hope going on to now with the DNA process that we've been working on.
I actually shared that clip from the show last night with Stephanie on our social media pages. So if you go to city Facebook or Twitter, or the police Facebook or Twitter, you should be able to find it. I don't know if it was shared on the other pages. I'll have to check. Yeah. It was great.
Oh, okay, good. I talked about the street crimes unit. Those gentlemen are, out there, and they work a weird schedule because it's kind of flexible depending upon what their needs are. It's a 5-man team, and they work together and do a heck of a job, to be honest with you. My forensic science unit, which basically detective handles nothing but downloading cell phones and laptops for evidence, extractions, photographs for the court, for trial purposes, gathering evidence, child pornography, all that kind of stuff that you kind of see on CSI and the TV stuff. It's not as quick as they do it on TV, I'll tell you that. And it costs tens of thousands of dollars every year more for me to upgrade the current system. Along with that, I got several officer or detectives that are assigned to a variety of task force. I got one assigned to the DEA task force, the State Police Vehicle Theft Task Force. The good thing about the Vehicle Task Force, all theft cases, that detective is responsible for handling all the auto theft cases in our city with the task force, and it's a manpower enhancement for us. So I have a team of, on a task force, maybe 6 to 8 detectives that if I have a problem in an area, I can bring those people in to work that case, and then they travel around either the metro area or wherever else. DEA handles some of our drug cases we develop up to where it's going to be a multi-state or and down here maybe multi-country type case. DEA will pick that up and work that in concert with us. And they've been very good partners. We also partner up with the DPS Gang Task Force, and we assign 1 officer there, and we have 6 additional officers that are available to us should we need it. So they're all kind of things that we use for enhancing what we're short on personnel. We can expand it by basically a phone call. Mesa PD and Gilbert and Chandler have been extremely helpful for us. If we need something, usually a phone call from either me to their chief or to a commander at the super district will bring me another 15 or 20 guys if I need them. So it's good of developing these partnerships, and it's really important. That's kind of a nutshell of what your department is. We constantly are trying to expand things and try to give more service to the community. It's budget time, so we'll get in the battle stages now where it's things that I'm trying to get in the budget, and I know that a lot of stuff will not be approved, but we have to live, unlike the federal government that I had worked for, we don't print the money, we have to live within our budget. And the good thing about a lot of things here is that when I say I'm going to spend it on X, city manager makes sure I spend it on X, not Y and Z. So anyway, any questions that you might have? I'm sure there's one or two. Yes, sir. Ma'am, sir.
Good afternoon, Chief.
Yes,
I was just wondering.
Didn't call you back.
I'm sorry, sir.
I did not call you back.
That's okay, Chief. I know things
I
are
was
busy.
a little busy the last couple of days.
Yes, sir. And things are going well, I hope. I was just wondering, do you cover all of Gold Canyon? Do they have services there?
No, if you go where the Superstition, Silly Mountain's at,
Uh-huh.
and then go west, and go to Meridian, and then we go down to, where do we go? Yeah, baseline.
So they
There's
have
not
their
much
own-
south of there right now. It's open land. Well, though we got our water treatment plant down there.
Okay,
And
this
some
is-
homeless camps, but other than that,
They have their own law?
Guadalupe, I think, is actually, and then go north all the way up to McKellips.
Okay.
It's about 36.2.4 miles.
Just the city limits. And then if you are west of Meridian, you're either in Mesa jurisdiction or Maricopa County Sheriffs. And if you're in a county island or at Gold Canyon, then it's Pinal County
Yeah.
Sheriffs.
And you do have some islands within our city boundaries as well.
With this new D.R. Horton development coming down, are you going to be expanding your department to meet the needs there?
Yes, we've actually been talking to them on a regular basis, so if the proposal goes through the way it looks, we could actually, I won't say double the size of the city, but I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's probably, 10 years down the line. But we could probably look at, what are they saying, about 10,000, 12,000 homes down in that area, so that'll double at least our summertime population, and we'll still have that 30,000. And we still have the 30,000 that come down in the winter. So we go from like 45,000 people during the summer to about 75,000 in the winter. The weird thing about that is the only thing that increases crime-wise is traffic accidents and medical situations. But our crime is pretty consistent. And I throw that back to the men and women out there because I think they're... I think anybody can do some bad stuff to each other. Been around way too long to see, and not to insult anybody here, but I'm at the same stage, but grandma and grandpa can be nasty sometimes.
Speak for yourself.
I was.
Yeah, I know. More questions.
This gentleman over here has been trying to get his hand up. You're ignoring him.
What is the age requirement for your Explorer programs?
I'm going to be lying to you. I think it's 12 to 18. Okay. And if you've got anybody that has an interest in it, the one thing that I'll say about the Explorer program, my Explorer, I don't want to say counselor, but coordinator, is really adamant about making sure the boy or girl maintains school stuff, and if they don't behave, they're not in the program very long. But we do try to train them. We've had a couple of them. In fact, Danny Garcia is one of our detectives. Now started as an explorer here, and he's been here about 15 years, but that's one of the programs. He's for Ernie Eaton, who's one of our school resource officers at the alternate school here, was an explorer, and he also is really adamant about working with the kids. I'll tell you what, I wanted to be a school teacher at one time. And I'll tell you what, sometimes when I walk, and it's not Apache Young High School, I walk in a high school sometimes, I think sometimes I'm walking into the Cook County Jail. I mean, we don't have lockers anymore because the kids are bringing bad stuff in there. I mean, the kids are like, I don't know. 99% of our kids are great kids. And it's like anything else. 99% of our community are wonderful people, and we always have that. And like even in my department, I say, I spend 99% of my day working on 1% of my problems.
I have another question. Well, I have two more other questions.
Okay. You have somebody you're trying to volunteer?
No,
You're a little old for it.
Right. Now, I did it up in Washington State, and so even with the program, the more people hear about it, the possibility of kids actually wanting to do it is there. Another question I have is, do you guys do ride-alongs?
Yep, we do that. All you need to do is contact the patrol lieutenant or commander. We have you fill out a form. We require people to wear what I call business casual clothing, because we've had some people that dress in a fashion that you don't want them in your car. So we make sure they dress appropriately, and they sign a waiver on the thing.
And my last question is, do you guys do police auctions?
We do. Our auction actually goes through our Public Works Department, and I couldn't tell you the last time they had an auction. That'd be something for our public. Do you have Public Works come out to the CLI?
Yes, Mr. Weaver, the director, has come out,
That'd
but
be
that's
a good,
probably
good question for him, because I know we do have several cars down there right now, but I think they go to a secondary or auctioneer that they
to a
just
third
come and
party.
pick them up. Yeah. I think of taking the interim judge's time, and I don't want to aggravate her because she might be the.
Oh, really? You have inside info here?
Could be. I don't know,
Scoop for everybody here, scoop.
I'm just saying that, stranger things have happened.
I think almost all of the surplus stuff now is handled by a third party, if I remember right. We'd have to check with Heather, but. Cool.
But I just, for the folks that are here in Apache Junction and the ones that are, in on the skirts of it, and we've had, like Lori said, we have a lot of volunteers from Gold Canyon, but we have had such a great outreach from our community, and I can only compliment. It's got to be my people that are doing the right thing when they're not being watched. They're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. But we really have had an outpouring, even when all the bad things were happening across the country. We had people coming down saying, our department doesn't do that. We appreciate you, and we just support you. What can we do to support you? We had people that were wanting to do banners and stuff on the street corner when we had all this craziness going on. And my personal opinion was, sometimes less is more. And if I don't need to bring attention, I don't need to be the problem. So I'd rather have us just let us do our job, come into the station, say thank you, send us a card, make a phone call, and I get emails and stuff. I'll respond back to them. And that's the other thing is people send stuff in. I respond back with a letter all the time saying thanks for it. So, but thank you very much. I had one weird thing, and I know he wants to ask a question. So my whole career, I've never had this happen, but it happened here. I had a lady that started an email that was about this long. And she said, I just want to talk to you about a traffic ticket I got. And I'll make this really short. And I thought, oh, God, here we go. It's going to be a complaint. Internal Affairs is going to have to be notified. And she went on and on how this office has stopped her, and she got a traffic ticket. And there was a warrant for her. And then I said, oh, it's going to get worse. And she said, but I was treated with respect. I've never been treated so nice. The officer made a bad situation good, and I really appreciated it. And I went like, let me read this again. This is the first time I've ever everybody get arrested and a ticket and their car towed, and they're saying the officer was good about it. But I called her the next day. She said, no, seriously. The guy was, actually there was two officers, and there was an officer that towed a car, and then the jail guy that actually took her back to jail because she was wanted on a warrant made kind of a little joke with her and lighten up a bad situation. She was very complimentary about it. I was like, that's the first time in 49 years I've heard that.
I didn't want to say that number, but that's exactly right.
And never in Chicago would that happen. I guarantee that.
In the suburbs, maybe.
No. Probably not.
Yeah, I was in 7th District too, so 7th District,
okay. I was in 6.
not a great.
Gresham, yeah.
Yeah, so it's on St. Louis Street over there, I think, in that area. But anyway, so I was just thinking, what do we do for CAPS? Like, is there that program here, like where they have community policing? Like, because we used to have, the kids would be chaperoned by the police officers to Chicago White Sox and Chicago Fire games. And I used to set that up by calling those different teams and then going into the police station and talking to the officers, and they would just, you know, the kids would ride in on police vehicles and everything else. It was kind of fun. Do we have anything like that out here to build the trust between the kids and the police?
Well, we have had some things in the past. What time are you supposed to go on?
We're good. We have a few minutes.
Am I
It's
in
okay.
her time?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Because she's going to hold me accountable for it.
I know.
One way or the other, she's going to do it.
Why do you think I sing everything is fine?
And Hazel's gone in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, if that long.
We did have a program, but COVID did a lot of issues to it. We used to do it not as much as you used to see probably in Chicago, because obviously they have much more people to do it, and they have a lot of the FOP and stuff would do some of these benefit things. So we're not at that stage where we can do that, but we do have officers that do time with either basketball, baseball type things. But generally what we do is we try to reach out around Christmas time, and we tried to do Shop with a Cop at one time. And because of some of the shortage of manpower and stuff and issues going around, this last year we partnered up with Mesa Police Department. So we went together and then got a cadre of kids and officers to go to the store to buy Christmas presents. And it's actually kind of a moving situation. You see people that are, old SWAT guys that come out and they'll come and do this stuff, but they go with these kids, and you have these little kids that want to buy Christmas presents, and they'll buy, like shoes and socks, and then you'll go like, those aren't going to fit you. And they'll be like, no, it's not for me, it's for my brother or sister. And you go like, wow. So the amount of money the stores give us, and the guys are digging in their pockets, and a couple guys actually brought out their credit cards and bought extra stuff for the kids, but it's kind of an amazing thing. Then you have the other side that wants to have an iPad and, the newest cell phone and stuff like that. But again, 99% of the people are really needy when we help them. So we do have some of those. We did do stuff through the DARE program and the Explorer program when we went down to Cardinal Stadium and did some stuff with a fundraiser for the DARE program, and we worked with those sports teams. But again, COVID. We don't do it with regularity, I'll admit that.
Okay. Any other questions? Jeff, one more?
So I did the...
Three's the limit.
Okay. I'll come up with some more. It's fine. I did the Citizens Posse program with Sheriff Mark Lamb, and hadn't had a call back yet. Do they do anything with the Apache Junction Police? Should I expect any time?
Sheriff who?
Yeah, Sheriff Lamb. So yeah, so
what county did you go to?
Yeah.
No.
Do they do anything with the local police department at all? Because I haven't even been called by them since I did that program. I didn't know if they were.
We have really a good working relationship. Mark and I harass each other all the time because he's got that silly hat that he wears all the time. And it seems like it keeps getting bigger every meeting I go to. But no, Mark's a good partner, so is his under sheriff and stuff like that. But we work with him on a regular basis. I'm not sure on his volunteer program how he works it, but Al, give me his name and number, and I'll tell Mark that we got a person there.
You got it.
Why haven't you called me back?
I will do that, absolutely. Remember, yeah, there's...
Up here, though, too, there's very few deputies that are signed up. There's probably maybe 3 or 4 max that cover the whole area.
And you have to remember, that's County Islands, that's the whole area outside the city limits, to the east, to the north, and then, of course, up to Gold Canyon as well, so that is part of it. All right, Chief Tom Kelly, thank you very much. All right, I do want to let everybody take at least a couple minutes off, so let's just take a couple minutes, and we'll come back at 7:45, and we will talk about the municipal court. Okay, hopefully our online folks are paying attention too. We wrap up tonight. Our third presentation of the night is another part of sort of criminal justice within the city of Apache Junction. Most municipalities have a city court. For those of you, and I don't know if the judge will go through a little bit of how the court system works. Of course, there's federal courts and there's state courts. There's the county superior court, and then there's justice courts and municipal courts. And so there's a whole little, group of folks as far as the criminal justice system goes and adjudication. So this in the city is our municipal court. So I'm sure the judge will talk to you about that. So for those of you who are unaware, Judge James Hazel has been our judge for several years here in the city. But a couple of weeks ago, he tendered his resignation because he has been appointed the new municipal judge for the town of Oro Valley, which is in the northern part of Tucson there. And so he will be leaving us here in just a couple weeks, as the chief mentioned, to go to Oro Valley. So we have our associate judge with us this evening. She comes to us from Mesa. She's been in Mesa for the last 20 years, right? But has experience in the Maricopa County Public Defender's Office and the City of Phoenix's Prosecutor's Office, at the State Attorney General's Office. So she's got a lot of great experiences before she went to Mesa in 1998, and is now sitting as our associate judge and will continue to rule the bench, as it were, and sit on that bench after Judge Hazel leaves until we can replace him. So without further ado, the associate judge of the City of Apache Junction, Michelle Liu Sang.
Okay. Municipal court is a limited jurisdiction court. What that means is that my power as a judge in municipal court is very limited. We are not an inferior court, as Superior Court would like to say. We are a limited jurisdiction court. Superior Court is a general jurisdiction court. There are two types of limited jurisdiction courts: municipal courts, like we have here, and justice courts. We have the same authority to some extent, but in some cases we do not have the same authority. Primarily in municipal court, we take care of criminal offenses. We do very little with civil offenses, as far as we don't deal with lawsuits, anything like that. That's justice court. A lot of traffic cases, a lot of criminal cases, and even with COVID, our court, and I say our, I don't live in Apache Junction, but I just feel really connected to Apache Junction. I hike here a lot. Even with COVID, we were open all the time. We never closed our court. We were always available to help people. And it's really important for you to know that 92–93% of the people who get involved in the justice system to any extent, they get involved on the limited jurisdiction court level, not Superior Court, not appellate court. So it's really important as a limited jurisdiction judge for me, or any other limited jurisdiction judge, which include justices of the peace, to be the face of justice, because we are the face of justice. People get traffic tickets. They come into court to see us. People are victims. We have jurors. We, limited jurisdiction judges, just represent to the average person what justice is. So it's very important, as I sit as a judge and any limited jurisdiction judge, it's really important for the face we present to the public to be a compassionate one, an understanding one, a just court. And we are very busy. As you can see, we processed a lot of traffic cases in 2020, considering that most of the courts were closed for the majority of the year. Again, we never closed down. Our doors were always open. And we did it safely. We followed CDC guidelines. We made sure that everyone coming into the court building was safe. We made sure everyone working in the court system was safe. We were very, very safe, and we were still able to meet the needs of people needing us. As a matter of fact, we got really busy because other courts closed down. So where did they come? They came to us. Okay. We processed, as you can see, 1,263 criminal cases in 2020. A lot of cases. That means a lot of traffic. We do a lot of code compliance. I learned about pause and clause this evening. I knew something about it because I'd done some adjudications regarding animals that had been taken from their owners and taken to pause and clause, but I'm glad I sat in earlier because I learned a lot too. That's an excellent program that's there, a very important program. Animal control is very important, so there's the civil aspect of it, and there's a criminal aspect when it comes to animal control laws, and those are all prosecuted for the most part under the city code. We have state statutes, we have city code violations that are handled in municipal court. And orders of protection and injunctions against harassment, because we were one of the few courts that was open, we got a lot of them. The way the rules are, any court can issue an order of protection and injunction against harassment. So I was getting people from all over because we were open. And I actually had someone ask me, someone questioned, why were we, sure. Why am I issuing an injunction against harassment for a plaintiff who lived in Santan? And I had that question too. I didn't question my jurisdiction. I have the power to do it. And when the defendant asked the plaintiff why, the plaintiff said that she called around and she found out that Apache Junction Municipal Court was one of the nicest, kindest courts to appear before. So she traveled from Santan to come to our court to get her injunction issued, knowing that if it's challenged, she has to come back to our court to have the hearing. So it's, that is probably one of the most important things that we do as judges. We issue restraining orders, injunctions against harassment, or orders of protection. And that slide is regarding how the system works. This is Justice Court. Justice Court handles civil matters as far as small claims and money matters under $10,000. Fortunately for me, we don't have to handle that in municipal court. Municipal court is primarily focused on criminal offenses. We don't do evictions. I have done evictions. I've sat as a justice of the peace, and no one wants to do evictions, but evictions are necessary sometimes. Thankfully, now sitting for the most part full-time, I don't have to do evictions. I can do them. I understand the law, and I have done a few of them, but I don't do that on a regular basis because city court doesn't handle evictions. Primarily, again, it's criminal matters and civil traffic matters, local ordinances. The only civil matters criminal court handles, that our court would handle, would be injunctions against harassment or orders of protection. Those are civil in nature. Those are the only civil matters aside from civil traffic that the Apache Junction Municipal Court presides over. There's a Superior Court where people go to get, they can get a marriage license. Apache Junction Court can marry people. We do that. It's one of the nicest things that we do. And people come to our court because our court, and I'm very possessive. I feel like it's my court. I see our court. Our court actually marries individuals. We don't charge any fee. We schedule it. Before COVID, what would happen is someone would contact the court and they'd say, well, they'd like to get married, and we tell them you have to get a marriage license, and schedule it when we're not busy because we're not allowed to interrupt regularly scheduled matters to do marriages, and we're also not allowed to advertise we do marriages, but we have the authority. It's discretionary, it's not mandatory, and Judge Hazel did a wonderful job when he came to this court as presiding. He decided that he would do weddings. He would do them during the business day and not charge, because judges cannot charge a fee if it's done between, during court hours. That is absolutely unethical. You cannot do that. There are a lot of courts that do that they start weddings after the business day and then they can charge a fee. But in AJ, anyone wants to get married, let us know. We'll find a time that it's not so busy. Bring in your marriage license, and we even give people we marry a frameable vows. We print the vows in nice print, and it's frameable. So it's one of the nicest, kindest, most community-oriented things that Apache Junction Court does, and it does a lot. It's a remarkable court, and I hope that whoever takes over, if it's someone else, if it's me, that we continue what Judge Hazel has started, because he put this court in such a great position that it meets the needs of everyone. It meets the needs of defendants, which is really important, because we cannot, as a society, charge someone, convict them, order them to pay fees and fines, which there are some mandatory fees and fines that are very high, and not give people who are underemployed or unemployed an opportunity to satisfy those fines. And what happens in AJ is defendants can complete community restitution. It used to be called community service. But a few years ago, the legislature decided that when someone is working off a fine, it cannot be called community service, because community service is what people volunteer for. So it's now called community restitution. And I'd been a judge for about 15 years before that change came about, and I didn't understand it at first. Why can't we say community service? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that community restitution is appropriate, because it's a way of compensating the community for the act, the wrong. You commit a crime, you either plead guilty or you're found guilty, a fine is imposed. What better way to pay the fine if you can't pay it by money than to work it off for the community? Because of COVID, we haven't been able to have that as much. The program restarted, I think it restarted in October, November, and it's done right here at the court. We have defendants come to the court and work it off. Right now, they get credit for $10 per hour toward their fine. There is a proposed legislation that would mandate statewide that if a court has a defendant do community restitution to satisfy a fine, it's going to go up to $12 an hour, which is fair, because that is the minimum wage rate in Arizona. So it makes sense that it tracks what that is. And again, it's for people who are underemployed or unemployed. If you have limited ability, we find something that you can do. Not everyone can do very physical labor. Some people can't be outside when it's hot, and we will accommodate that. We accommodate people who have needs that would preclude them from being outside. Some people like being outside, and they love, being able to satisfy their fine that way. So that's probably one of the best things that Judge Hazel did when he became presiding, I think it was 12 years ago. Does anyone have any questions? Sure. Okay.
Good evening. My question is, do you have any specialty courts like drug court?
We do not. We have one specialty court, and it's a mental health court. It's for individuals who are competent, so they can be prosecuted, but they have mental health needs. I actually started that court November 2018, and we meet the third Thursday of every month. we monitor the case. The whole purpose of it is to encourage people, defendants, to participate in services. We hook them up with services, find out what their needs are, and what I tell them, and I like to see them in person, is I tell them that if they don't reoffend and they comply with services, then the prosecutor will dismiss the charge. They will they'll be successful. We've had some successes. It's, of course, a little bit more difficult with COVID, as you know, for them to get the services, but I think it's been successful. The whole purpose is to make sure that they know the services are there and to get them to participate in the services.
So there's not really a need for those type of specialty courts here in AJ or Apache Junction?
Well, I think we could probably do with a domestic violence court, and that's something that I would like. I've done a lot of domestic violence training in the past 20 years. I think it's very important. I think a domestic violence court can be very successful. It's labor intensive. It is very expensive to run if you're going to do it the right way, but I think it'd be successful. And I think that's something that I hope eventually comes to Apache Junction, because domestic violence is everywhere. It's very common, and it doesn't make any sense to adjudicate people for domestic violence and then they come right back in. And I think if there's a domestic violence court, I think it will cut down on recidivism, because the reality is people want to get back together as a family. They want to resume that relationship, even if it's not a healthy relationship.
I agree. My other question is, how does the court interpret the new law for recreational marijuana when you're having people come out of prison in the next 3 to 4 months who are nonviolent and are heading to Apache Junction, as my church is developing a program to try to help that? So how does the court interpret that?
And I'm not quite sure what you mean. What I can tell you is that as far as the recreational marijuana goes, what has happened, as soon as that law was passed, as soon as it was voted into law, the prosecutor's office then went through and dismissed the possession of marijuana charges as well as the possession of drug paraphernalia charges because of the new law.
So they expunged those records?
No, there is a way to expunge it, but that hasn't started quite yet.
And, yeah, because I guess I'll just call and we'll have a conversation, because I don't want to hold up everybody's time.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so the pending cases, the ones that were in the system were the ones that were...
The ones that were in the system were the ones that the prosecutor looked at and decided he would file a motion to dismiss, even though it may have happened before the law was actually effective. He looked at it and said, these are pending. Yes, at the time, April 5th, 2020, it was against the law, but is he going to prosecute someone now for something, back then? Technically he could, but he's chosen not to, which I think is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm.
Next. Anybody been in court? When restrictions are lifted, at least a little bit more than where we are now, are people allowed in the court?
I would encourage you to come to court. A lot of people have no experience with the court, and there's some people who have much more experience with the court. They can recite it to me. I've had defendants say, I know it all, but the rules require I say the same thing repeatedly, so I say it, and they can actually parrot what I'm saying because they've heard it so many times. I would encourage you to come to court. Right now, we've restricted court appearances to defendants, victims, and attorneys, or someone seeking an order of protection. But I would encourage you to show up in court, because I think you would be surprised at what you see. As a female judge, I used to get all the time, well, you're not like Judge Judy. No, I'm not like Judge Judy. If I were like Judge Judy, I would not have been on the bench for 20 years in Mesa. Judges have to treat everyone who comes before them with respect. It's good morning, it's good afternoon, it's Mr. or it's Mrs. or Ms. I have never had an unruly defendant. I've been on the bench over 22 years. And the reason I don't have unruly defendants is because I respect them. Yes, they've been charged with a crime. They may be guilty. As far as I'm concerned, until they plead guilty or until they are found guilty, they are not guilty. And even if they are found guilty, they still deserve respect. Everyone deserves respect. It doesn't matter what the charge is that you're coming into court. And people come in and they're upset, and I explain the system. One of the things I do as a judge is I educate. I give them a short civics lesson. This is what you're charged with. This is the state's burden of proof. These are your rights. Do you have any questions? I can't give legal advice, but I can answer general questions, and I do. I welcome the questions, and I actually like when a defendant, I'm going through a plea proceeding, and the defendant says to me, what, I can lose my right to bear firearms? And it's like, I'm so glad you're listening. When someone questions what I'm saying, I actually, commend them for listening, because it's not railroading. It's not, I don't rubber stamp. I mean, I listen. I ask people individual questions, and I look at them, because sometimes people are so afraid of court, what they'll do is yes to everything. And I tell them, I said, no. If they are saying yes to everything, but their body language is saying no, I stop it. I have stopped people from pleading guilty and made them come back to court for a trial, and then the prosecutor says they're going to dismiss. You can't plead guilty unless you are guilty. And you can't plead guilty because it's the fastest way to get out of court. Yeah. I have rejected pleas because of that, and that's what we have to do as judges, because we have to be fair. Oh, it's so easy for me to take pleas in closed cases. I'm not going to do that. I don't want anyone walking out of court thinking that they haven't been listened to.
I'm actually going to use Texas as an example of my question here. Like, I know that out there, like, somebody could, like, run for, like, a county judge, and they don't have to be an attorney.
Yes.
For something like what you're doing, do you have to be an attorney to be a municipal judge?
Yes, most of the cities, to my knowledge, with the exception of, I think, Yuma, you have to actually have a law license. And most of the cities require that you have 5 years' experience. To be a justice of the peace, you run for election. It doesn't matter what you've done in your previous life. And I trained JPs for 15 years. Trained them for 3 weeks to give them the information and the tools to sit in judgment on cases and adjudicate cases. It's hard. It's a tough job, but municipal court judges, for the most part, have to be law trained, have to have a law license. Do you have a question? Okay.
I think she heard it's mandatory sentences.
Okay, my opinion on mandatory sentences. I absolutely always follow what the mandatory sentence is. Do I like them? Not necessarily, but those are set by a separate branch of government. And I can't change that. When there is not a mandatory sentence, then I have more control over the situation. I do not like to sentence someone to do something that they cannot accomplish. So yes, I follow the law when it comes to mandatory sentence. Am I in favor of all of them? I think sometimes it's necessary. As far as mandatory sentences, that cases that I see would be driving under the influence, mandatory sentence, no proof of insurance, mandatory sentence, expired registration, mandatory sentence, possession of marijuana. Well, we don't have that issue anymore, but it used to be a high mandatory sentence of $750 plus surcharges, which is about $1,500. Some of the mandatory sentences are going away. We don't have as many as we used to. Years ago, if you were driving on a DUI suspended license, you had to go to jail for 48 consecutive hours, even though the DUI that you were convicted of only required 24 consecutive hours in jail. That changed. So a lot of them are going away, but I will follow them. And I'm going to tell you, I'm human. I don't agree with every single law that's out there, but I follow the law. I absolutely have to follow what the law says.
She's the judge. Here comes the judge. Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, sit down.
Oh, perfect.
Any other questions?
Be sure to come visit us. We're right across the way when the COVID restrictions live. It will be a good experience. And we don't do very many juries in Apache Junction. I've been trying to do one for the past 2.5 years. I haven't been able to do one. But if you get a jury summons, please come. It's an experience that you will find very fulfilling. And keep in mind, it's limited jurisdiction court. So if you're selected for a jury, you are not going to be there for weeks at a time. Your commitment max is a couple of days, okay? And it gets you out of jury service for the next 2 years. So if you get a jury summons, honor it. And I hope to see you in court to visit. If you need any kind of help or restraining order, we're there for you. Just, come and see how the system works, because it's your system, it's for you, it's for the community. And it's very important that people understand the court is there to serve the people. And the people is everyone who comes into the court building.
Judge Lusang, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Judge. Okay. Couple of announcements here for those of you who are paying attention. Oh, darn it. Does everybody know the new web address for the city? Don't everybody say it at the same time. See, even I'm having trouble. At this rate, I'm not going to convince anybody. See, it is, but you know what? It's one of those funny things. You got to put the www. All right. So, for those of you who are not aware, you should know by now that after the first of the year, the city changed its domain. So the city website is now apachejunctionaz.gov. That follows the convention of a number of cities in Arizona. I don't know if it's, I believe now it's the majority of cities in Arizona, that if you go to cityaz.gov, that is the city website. That also has changed our email addresses. So if you know the basic convention for email addresses within the city is first initial, last name at apachejunctionaz.gov. So you should be aware of that. What I wanted to remind you of, or at least let you know about, is that this weekend, you know what? This is not going to help me today, is it? Here we go. This weekend, right outside these doors in this parking lot, Embry Health, which is the outfit that has been doing COVID-19 testing at locations throughout the valley, and of course here at the Parks and Rec parking lot, as well as up at the Mountain View Lutheran Church. They will be holding a vaccination event, 7 to 7, both Saturday and Sunday. We have now, of course, opened up the restrictions to getting vaccines, so it's now 18 and over, I believe, for Pinal County. And if anybody you know or any of you want to come and get a shot, this is your chance. You can go to the website, you can find it there. You can go to Embry, you can find it from them. You could go to our social pages, you can find it there. But you do have to make an appointment. I am told that Saturday is fairly booked, but Sunday is wide open, so be aware of that. That is on Saturday and Sunday, and you will also be scheduled for a second dose, since we, of course, are getting the Moderna vaccine here in Pinal County. We assume, and we probably, the word's probably not the best word to use probably there, but we would expect that you're now going to see a lot more locations giving out vaccines, the pharmacies will now be a little more engaged in some of that. So you could start to see a little bit more activity that way. Now that they have opened up the allotment, we're going to probably see a lot more demand as it gets younger and younger. Pat?
Okay, so reading the news, there's reason they opened it up is because people are not getting the shot. Is that
So Pat's asking, the reason that they lowered the age restriction was because people were not getting the shots. There's a lot of reasons people are not getting the shots. There's a lot of reasons why they've opened it up. They had planned all along to open it up. The president actually said, we told all the states they need to open it up by May. I think part of it is a numbers game, to be very honest with you. I think the state and other places had not gotten enough vaccine, and now there's a little bit more available out there, so that probably has to play into it a little bit. But you have to admit that there is a segment of the population that is not going to get vaccinated, and so the idea is we need to get through as much as we can for the folks who are going to get vaccinated and go from there. So I think a number of factors there, Pat. Sarah.
I heard an incentive, Fox 10 did a special on it. After you have your vaccine, you can take your vaccine card to Krispy Kreme.
Yep.
You get one free donut every day for the rest of the year.
One free donut if you get your shot. I don't know. I don't know if that means if you get your shot, you also should maybe watch your sugar, but now you have to get 2 shots. That's right. You got to get 2 shots. Don't forget. So that is the other point that I do want to make, because there's been a few questions about that I've gotten from my office, and that is, remember, there's a couple of different shots out there. The pharmacies here got the Johnson & Johnson shot, which is, of course, the one-shot deal. So there is a number of things that are going on out there that people should be aware of, depending on where you're going, what you're doing, and your intentions on things of that nature. But as the city has all along wanted to make sure we're trying to serve our city as best we can, our demographic and beyond, we have been working on this actually for some time, and the tumblers kind of fell into the row finally, so we can do this weekend. And like I said, my guess is you'll probably see a little bit more of that. We have not seen the mass distribution in Pinal County that they've obviously had in Maricopa County. Now we're lucky we're a little closer, but for the folks in the rest of the areas, they probably have not seen that. So that has been one of our challenges that we wanted to try to meet, was to find a place, at least up here, where people could get a shot. So if you, like I said, if your folks in your circle are interested, please have them check this out so they can come out this weekend. Jeff 1. That are edibles, right? So, okay. Now here's my question. Let's say you get a shot, you go and have an edible. Do you get the munchies? And have to go to Krispy Kreme? I'm just wondering, is there a little? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just telling you. Something like that. We probably need to call our friend who owns the Little Caesars over there and say, free pizza, right? No, shouldn't have said that. Let's see. Any other updates from the city that I wanted to? For those of you who have not, I was kind of hoping the police chief would make a mention. If you have not seen any of the coverage, or at least some of the details of what happened actually just outside the city, which is another interesting topic, but our police officer that was shot last Tuesday over off of Signal Butte and Apache Trail, I encourage you to go back and look at that, because that, it turns out, is so rare. It has not happened in 20 years in our city. And again, a very, very serious situation, and miraculously this officer has gone home today. So pretty amazing thing. So if you haven't, we had obviously a lot of media coverage over it. If anybody wants to see any of that, obviously I've collected a lot of that. And that we can show. Okay, no council meetings for a couple weeks. We're kind of in a funny part of the calendar this year, where we actually have 2 weeks in between council meetings. So the next council meeting, I believe, are April 5th and 6th. Does that sound right? And planning and zoning, I don't believe is up again until April. Has everybody got a chance to see a meeting, at least online? It seems like everybody has made mention to a meeting at some point. But if you haven't, you still have a couple more opportunities. One of the things I'm going to send out to everybody, by the way, since we're now actually in the home stretch, we have a couple more classes to go. We still have to get to parks and library, and the city attorney is going to come and give a little presentation. We have a couple more to go. But I am going to send out a note to everyone asking for your shirt size. If you remember, I told you at the beginning of the class, all those who complete the whole series are invited back to be acknowledged at a city council meeting, which will likely be in May, and everyone gets a Citizens Leadership Institute polo shirt. And so I will be sending out, and I will get male and female formats and sizes and whatnot, but I will send you all an email so you guys are aware of that. How did training go, Z? Matt? There you go. There's 2 of your classmates who are already involved in the police auxiliary program, but you missed the chief, so there you go. That's the way it goes. Yes, you probably do. All right. We will be back in, actually we won't be back for 3 weeks, if I remember right. I believe our next class comes up on April 14th. Does that sound right to everybody? April 14th and 28th, it seems to me, are the last 2 classes. But I will be in touch with you on anything else. Any other questions before we finish up for the night? We actually did pretty well, because we're going to get out of here at 8:30. Pat? No, I think there's 2. You know what? You might have had the early version, and we tweaked it. So it should be the 14th and 28th, I think, is the last 2 classes. But I'll go back and look, and we'll when I send you out, yeah. And then the 28th should be the judge. It should be the city attorney, right? Right. Okay. And if there are any other questions or requests before we're all done, please do let me know before we're done. But I will send out a note so everybody is on the same page there. Sorry about that, Pat. Terrell.
Real quick, from the grapevine, I heard there's a few businesses closing and housing development looking to happen here in the next couple years.
In particular areas, so Terrell's asking, he's heard about some businesses closing, but a development coming up in its place. Do you know where? Oh, the Greyhound Park off of Delaware and Apache Trail. So that particular area is actually a very interesting area. It's owned by Delaware North. Delaware North is one of the largest sports venue companies on the planet. Owns major sports venues and concessions, and is literally a $1 billion company, but owns that area too. They have, I believe, just started an application to turn one little area of the park grounds into, I think, just a small apartment building is all it is. That's all they've done. Now, we would love for them to decide to redevelop that whole, area, because of course right next to Walmart, it's, a very well-trafficked area, but they have up to this point not decided to invest into that particular property. So that's pretty much the extent of it at this point. Having said that, of course, there are a number of developments going on throughout the city, housing and otherwise. There's one over on Ironwood and Superstition that is getting closer. There's some the first kind of moves on Meridian and Southern for another development. I get always a couple questions because there's a fence going up on the vacant land at Southern and Ironwood across the street from the high school and whatnot. What's going on there? Nothing, unfortunately. It's the owner simply putting up a fence there to keep riffraff out. So we'll keep working with him. Hopefully there'll be something there. All right, I'm trying to think if there's any other announcement stuff. Otherwise, I think we've covered just about everything. Like I said, we will see you on the 14th. And if you have any other questions about anything else, don't forget, if you wanted to go back and watch something, or if you wanted to see how tonight went, the link that I send out right before class starts, I send to the entire class. You can go back to that link and see all of you in your glory, as well as our presenters as well. All right. If there are no more questions, I will take my leave of you, wish you all a very good evening, and ask you, as always, to please drive home safely. Good night.